Okay. Final part of your notes, I just need you to write these things down. This is an anagram. These letters stand for something. This is DIXI, ROYD. This was something that I learned whenever I was your age. Honestly, I didn't care about it, but some of my classmates cared about it whenever I was in the 8th grade. So I'm gonna share it with you, and maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. There are lots of words that mean the same thing in math. This is just going to summarize some of the things that mean the same thing. Some things that mean the same thing is domain is the same thing as the input, which is the same thing as X. And all of these three things are the same thing as the independent. Variable. For the range, the things that are the same, they all mean the same thing. So if you know one of these things, you really know all of these things. If you know the range, then that means that you know the outputs. That means that you know the outputs. And if you know the outputs, then you know the Y's. And if you know the Y's, then you know the dependent variable. Sometimes in real world situations, you'll want to know what is depending on something else. This is independent. This is dependent. If you're talking about a business, you want to know, well, how much money am I making based off of my workers' input? If we're just straight math, then maybe we'll just need the domain and the range. And if we're trying to graph, then we'll need the X's and the Y's. But all of these are the same. All of these are the same. Finally, we're going to do the real life for domain and range. The zooming options on Google Slides is really bad. Say you were buying ties with this formula. Like these are business ties. Girls can wear business ties too. The cost of the ties is 14 times each tie. C is the cost, T is the ties. You cannot spend more than $56. What is the domain of this function? C is the cost. Cost is the output, which means it is the answer. C is Y, which means it's the range. T is here, where how many ties you're buying is going to change how much the cost is. But we know that we can't spend more than $56. So what I would say we should do is, if we know that we can do 56, and that's the maximum that we can spend, then we can subtract $14 each time. The most we can buy is $56. If we bought one tie less, however many ties makes 56, if we bought one less, that's going to be $14 less. So if I do 56 minus 14, that makes 42, 56. These are numbers in the range. We're going back by 14 each time. So let's go back by 14. 42 minus 14 is 28. If I go back one more, that'd make 14. How many ties do you need to buy? If it's $14 each tie, how many ties would you need to buy to spend $14? What would the X's be? How many ties would you need to spend $14? The answer is 1. One tie is $14. How many ties make $28? If it's 14 each, then that's just 2 ties. How many makes 42? 3. How many makes 56? 4. So then the domain is not that, that's the range, not this, because if it was written this way, this would include decimals, and we're not buying half of a tie. That'd just be like a little tie like that, or maybe you get 2 halves of a tie, maybe you get the full tie, then you look good. So we don't want this because this has decimals. We want this type of domain that just has 1 tie, 2 tie, 3 ties, 4 ties, and that is called a discrete domain. If you have the specific numbers with no decimals, that's the discrete. Decimals could be okay in a different situation, but if we're talking about buying ties, then we're not going to have decimals for ties. Final example for the day. You rent a car for $100, $100 shows up right there. It's 50 cents for every mile that you drive this car. 50 cents times n. So the cost is the output, y is the cost, and you get the cost by doing $100 plus 50 cents for every mile that you're driving. It says you have to drive less than 125 miles. Miles are the x's. We have a limit on the x. X is less than 125. The question wants the domain. So we're not going to pick that because you can drive for half of a mile. We're not going to pick this because this has c, and c is not the domain because the domain is x, which are the miles, which only leaves b. So if b was the answer, does this inequality include decimals? Yes, it does, so this is continuous. When you're driving your car, you're not here, and then you teleport and you're here. You start here, and then you slowly move to one place else, or quickly move depending on who's driving. Okay, that's it for domain and range, day 2. I hope this video was helpful. Let me know if you want me to keep on making videos like this, or if you want the other way. Really, it just depends on how much time I have in the class. I didn't have a lot of time today, so we did it all like this instead of on my iPad. If you prefer the iPads, leave a comment and let me know that you want me to record on the iPad more often. I'm probably going to end up doing a mixture of both, some one day, some another day, but once I have the in-person class, which is next week, we'll just see how much time I have to make these videos.